This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is one of the most successful contrarian speculators in the natural resource space, Mr. Jeff Phillips. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent, Gerardo. I'm not. Last time we talked, I had a bit of a cold, so I feel great today.
Well, listen, it's great to have you back on. I always appreciate you making the time. We live in interesting times. We have copper futures, which, due in part to tariffs, hitting new record highs in the past week or so. And look, frankly, even without the tariffs, there's a great argument to be made that structural deficits are going to be with us for many, many years. So I wanted to have you on because I had a great conversation with Ken Brinsden from Patriot Battery Metals. And, we talked about a domestic independent supply chain of critical metals. Copper to me falls under that banner. And we talked about how companies are now starting to make direct investments, and governments right here, even in the US, into mining companies to secure supply. And so I thought it would be an interesting conversation to get your take on copper and how you see that playing out here in the next several years.
Yeah, Gerardo, that'd be a long conversation. I'll try to take it down to some bullet points, and then you asked me earlier off the record to give you a few stocks I like that I'm involved in, so we'll do both. But a lot of people call copper the new oil, and I've been around a long time. People have always called it Dr. Copper because it's got a PhD on the economy. Copper's used in everything, and it's getting more uses as we electrify and build out data centers and all these other things. So, I think, what you're really seeing is that, tariffs are kind of noise. I mean, in the short term, the supply-demand imbalance is the real signal, and that's what we have going on regardless of the tariffs. So, copper at 520 before tariffs, the trend was in place already. So, copper is going higher. Like a lot of the resource market, it's not being recognized in the stocks. You see gold moving higher, but that's typically what happens. The hard assets start to move up as we rotate into that sector, and then you see a play, start to get even bigger. So I think the copper producers here in the United States are going to start seeing their margins get better, and that starts attracting more people to the space. A lot of the development and junior companies in the copper space lag the metal, because we haven't seen, those producers' bottom lines at this point start to inflate. You see a lot of talk also, Gerardo, about AI and how much copper is going to be used in these data centers. Well, it's not just AI, all these data centers, whether it's, cloud computing, copper, there's a structural deficit in copper. We haven't developed it around the world. The Chinese have done a good job of tying up deposits that are out of the money that Western banks can't finance for the last 20 years. And as you see, we're starting to realize whether it's, and copper is a critical metal, but we're starting to see that we're very dependent on countries that aren't so friendly with us for a lot of these metals, and copper in particular. Something like 55-60% of the copper around the world gets refined in China, gets shipped to China and refined. So again, copper is pretty important. I think having a North American supply and building that supply chain in copper, and you see that with the Resolution copper mine getting approved very quickly under this new administration. That was stuck in Arizona and permitting for years. Now it's moving forward. So I think copper is very interesting in the right jurisdictions.
Well, I can't have you on, and you mentioned it, we talked a bit off air, but I can't have you on and waste the opportunity to ask you for, some of the better speculations, or speculations that you find attractive is probably a better way of putting it, in the space.
Yeah, I speculate on the front end, and then I consult. I often become a big shareholder in companies, and then I do some consulting for them to make sure they're spending mine and my friends' money wisely if they're exploring. So I tend to be on the front end of that curve. I joke with another friend who, does billion-dollar financing deals to build mines. I'm the front end and he's the back end. So I'm out there. I'm out there trying to find stuff, Gerardo. It's high risk. So any of your listeners should know anything I'm talking about is high risk. In these financial markets, I think everything's high risk. Everything's at record highs. But I think the resource space, barring a few hiccups, we're going to have an explosive space here over the next 10 years. And I think the overall markets will probably lag. I think you're going to see people rotate into these copper and gold and lithium. And I even think nickel and zinc are going to start catching bids. These are the building blocks for what we're doing. So, I'll go over a couple stocks again with the disclaimer I gave you. But, One stock I'm very interested that's drilling right now is right here in North America. It's called Greenlight Metals. Greenlight, basically is predominantly focused in Wisconsin. It was a private company for about 4 years. It shouldn't have been private that long. I was getting frustrated. But it was a merger between you and Downey's group, who's a pretty good entrepreneur in the resource space, and another group. And really what happened in Wisconsin is they had really a moratorium on mining for about 20 years. It used to be a big mining state, and Rio Tinto had lots of copper production there back in the day. Once they had that moratorium, mining ceased. Really, in the last 4 or 5 years, they replaced that moratorium. They become mining friendly. The state's changed. And Greenlight, along with the company they merged with, had basically tied up a lot of the old prospects and known assets in Wisconsin. So they're moving forward with those now. And now you see the administration change on top of that, and securing our own metals. So I think Greenlight's very interesting. They're currently drilling their Bend project. We should see drill results in the next month. They also have a project in Nevada, but they've always said they want to joint venture that out. So it wouldn't surprise me in the near future to see that joint ventured out. It's in the Walker Lane, which is a very famous spot in Nevada. So I think that will get joint ventured out, which adds, some other people's money drilling for a discovery there for you. But what I'm really interested in is in Wisconsin. I think that these VMS type deposits that have been mined there before, and Greenlight's tied a number of these up. I think we're going to see good drill results. This isn't total grassroots exploration. So at 22 cents a share, I think it's a very interesting speculation. Market cap's probably $12-14 million. But again, I own a fair chunk of shares, and I also do some consulting for them. So there's one.
And listen, I want to be completely transparent. It's also a shareholding of mine. I participated in that same financing with you. We were stuck in it for several years as a private company.
Yeah.
I also think it'll be worth the wait. And again, it bears mentioning that the market cap is absolutely tiny. It's $14.5 million for, potentially several robust copper gold projects in the U.S. with first mover advantage. And as you mentioned, advanced exploration. They've drilled before, they've hit before. So excited to get those results. Not going to let you go yet, Jeff. Can I get another name or two?
Yeah, I can give you another name or two. Up a little bit higher on their risk curve is a company that's kind of been asleep for a while, called Cucho Copper. Their project is in British Columbia, Canada. It's actually a more advanced project, a medium-sized copper zinc project. I believe it's about 22 million tons, right around 2.2 copper equivalent, about 1.1 billion pounds of copper. So that's actually, at the feasibility stage, that's a known asset. There's lots of exploration potential there. Because of the resource market over the last 5 years, the exploration part hasn't really happened. With copper prices where they're at, I think things are going to change. I think they're either going to be bringing in a partner where they can do the exploration, or I think they're a takeout candidate because of that resource, and someone else is going to come in and take them. The stock trades around 20 cents. It's probably got a $25 million market cap with a pretty good resource. It's a tier 1 jurisdiction. Permitting's pretty transparent. There's infrastructure there. Like I said, there's exploration inside, and even more importantly, there's strong financial support. Capstone Mining is a major shareholder, and Wheaton Precious Metals has a financing package in place for $100 million, and over 34 million is already invested. So Wheaton Precious Metals is a pretty big royalty player in this space. I'm pretty sure that at some point Cucho wakes up, and especially with these copper prices. So I really like that stock right now, and because it's North America, and Cucho Copper is one you should definitely take a look at and do some due diligence.
All right, one more, either a copper or gold.
A copper or gold? Well, I'm going to stick with copper since this is a copper interview. I'm a shareholder. It's a past client. I don't consult for them anymore. But Aldebaran Resources, they have a very advanced project down in Argentina. John Black is a successful mining entrepreneur. He sold his original company to, I think it was First Quantum, for $450 million. All shareholders made money. He has a couple of companies, both copper, Regulus and Aldebaran, both great companies. But Aldebaran is I can't give you the numbers, but it's a massive copper deposit, lower grade, but major partners. They've got South 32, the miner in there that owns a big chunk of the company that's come in. They've got Rio Tinto that just did a deal with them that could be up to $200 million turned into 20% of the project. The market cap of the company is about 200 million. So clearly, if Rio Tinto moves forward with that, the value is more than 200 million as they move forward. They also have a major supporter called, I think it's Route One,
Yep.
that owns a big chunk of Aldebaran also. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that, but you should do your due diligence. Aldebaran's a bigger market cap company than the two I just said. They're all higher risk, but again, John Black's been there, done that before. He sold the company. They're moving in the right direction. They've limited shareholder dilution by bringing in big players, and recently, like I said, they brought in Rio Tinto. So that was one you should definitely look at.
Massive project. You actually did both. You did gold and copper because that deposit or those deposits are very well endowed in both copper and
You
gold.
are correct.
It's a massive project. Jeff, it's always a pleasure. Anything else to add before I let you go?
No, I think you just need to be patient in this market. It's kind of like the resource market's like a lazy river. You sort of float around enjoying yourself, Gerardo. And then, about every 10 years, it's like you get to go down the rapids and have a lot of fun, and it's exciting. So I think that exciting resource market's, right around the corner. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. There could be some little bumps on the way, but keep floating and enjoying yourself. Get your positions placed right. Don't worry about the short term. And I think we're going to have a bull market in the resource sector that's going to be probably the best one I've seen in my 30-year career.
That's music to my ears. Lazy River with 100-degree heat here in Round Rock / Austin, Texas sounds like an absolute blast. Jeff, thank you for your time. As always, looking forward to having you back on. And again, thank you so much. I always appreciate it.
Thank you, Gerardo. Have a great day.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.